Have you ever believed with your whole heart that you knew someone only to have reality pull the rug out from under you? Because that's exactly what happened to me. At the start of this year, my wife and I got the kind of news that changes everything. She was pregnant. I remember that morning like it's carved into my brain. I was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling on my phone, half awake, when she came out of the bathroom holding that little plastic stick in her hand. Her eyes were wide, her mouth half open, like she couldn't decide if she wanted to smile or cry. I froze. My coffee was still in midair. Are you? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded. Yeah, I'm pregnant. I stood up, heart racing, and walked toward her. It was this strange mix of fear and happiness, like my chest couldn't figure out if it wanted to expand or collapse. We hugged. She was shaking a little. I could feel her heartbeat against me. And then she said something that made my world tilt even more. It's twins. Now, here's the thing, twins don't run in either of our families. This wasn't something I'd ever even considered. My brain was still catching up to the fact that I was going to be a dad. And now I was going to be a dad twice. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do with the overwhelming shock. She laughed too, but hers was nervous. And behind her eyes, I saw it the same fear I was feeling. We sat down that night and had the conversation. You know the one. The what do we do now talk. And I'll be honest, it wasn't an easy conversation. We talked about money. About the fact that our apartment was barely big enough for us, let alone 2 newborns. About how our jobs weren't exactly secure. About the life we'd pictured for ourselves and how this would change everything. Somewhere between the tears and the long silences, we came to the decision. The one that would haunt both of us in completely different ways. We decided to get an abortion. It's hard to even put into words what that moment felt like. My chest was heavy. My stomach was twisted in knots. But at the time, I told myself it was the logical choice. The responsible choice. I thought if I stayed calm and steady, she'd feel safe. Supported. So I didn't cry. Not in front of her. Not once. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought being the strong one was what she needed. But after it was over, she looked at me like I was a stranger. I hate you, she said one night. I remember staring at her, trying to process the words. What? You didn't even care, she said. You didn't want to have babies with me. You just wanted to get rid of them and move on. Her voice cracked, and she turned away before I could answer. And I just stood there, speechless. Because the truth? I did care. I wanted those babies. But I thought I knew it wasn't the right time. And I thought keeping my emotions in check would help her. I didn't realize it would make her feel completely alone in the worst moment of her life. That was the first crack. And over the next few months, those cracks turned into canyons. We barely spoke. When we did, it was short, clipped sentences about bills or groceries. She spent more time out of the house. I buried myself in work. At night, we'd lie in the same bed but feel miles apart. I told myself it was just a rough patch. That we'd find our way back. But then I found out about him. His name came up in the smallest, most innocent way at first. She mentioned him in passing, a guy from work, someone who understood her. I didn't think much of it. We all have coworkers we click with, right? But then I noticed something. She started saying his name more often, with a softness in her tone that wasn't there when she talked about anyone else. I'd catch her smiling at her phone, then quickly locking it when I walked into the room. Sometimes she'd go outside to take calls, her voice low, almost careful. At first, I told myself I was imagining it. That I was just paranoid because things between us were strained. Then one night, I woke up around 2 a.m. She wasn't in bed. I got up thinking maybe she was getting water or couldn't sleep. But when I stepped into the living room there, she was, sitting on the couch in the dark, her phone pressed to her ear. She was whispering. I couldn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. The tone said it all. When she saw me, she jumped like she'd been caught stealing. It's nothing, she said, fumbling to hang up. Just a friend from work going through something. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But my gut was screaming. A few weeks later, I got the confirmation I didn't want. It was a Thursday. I was home early from work, scrolling through my email when a message popped up from our shared phone carrier, a bill notification. Normally, I ignored those. But something made me open it. And there it was. Pages and pages of late-night calls and endless texts to one number. His number. I don't even remember how I confronted her. I think I just walked into the kitchen, phone in hand, and asked, "Who is he?" "Really?" She froze. Then her shoulders dropped. "He's a friend. He's been there for me when you weren't." My chest tightened. "You mean after the abortion? When you decided I didn't care?" Her eyes flashed with anger. "You didn't. You just shut down. I was drowning and you stood there and watched." We argued for hours that night. Voices raised, accusations flying, years of love twisted into sharp words. Finally, I asked her the question I was terrified to hear the answer to. "Did you sleep with him?" She shook her head. "No, it's emotional." That's it. We made out once. The relief I should have felt never came. Because even if it hadn't gone further physically, it had gone far enough in her heart. Far enough that she turned away from me when she needed someone and gave pieces of herself to someone else. That night, I slept on the couch. The next morning, we didn't speak. 2 days later, I told her it was over. It was her birthday. The irony wasn't lost on me ending our marriage on the day she was supposed to feel celebrated. But I couldn't live with the image of her whispering to another man at 2 a.m. I couldn't unsee it. She moved out a week later. I watched her pack her clothes into boxes and bags, her eyes red but dry. She didn't hug me goodbye. I didn't ask her to stay. For the first time in years, I was alone in our apartment. No sound of her moving around the kitchen. No smell of her shampoo in the bathroom. Just silence. I told myself I'd heal, that this was the right choice. But then a month later she called. It was a rainy evening when my phone lit up with her name. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. But my thumb hovered, and before I knew it, I'd answered. "Hey," she said softly. That voice, familiar but hesitant, instantly transported me back to 100 moments when things were simpler. We talked. At first, it was surface-level stuff. Work, the weather, how her car was acting up. But then the conversation dipped into deeper waters. She told me she'd been thinking about us. About everything that had happened. "I cried every night after the abortion," she admitted. "I felt like you didn't care, like you were relieved it was over." That hit me in a way I didn't expect. I told her the truth I'd been carrying silently. I was hurting too. I wanted to keep them. But I thought I had to be strong for you. I didn't want you to see me fall apart. She went quiet. I could almost hear her breathing change, like my words had landed in a place she didn't want to visit. We started talking more after that night. Texts, calls, even meeting up for coffee once or twice. At first, I told myself it was closure, just two people tying up loose ends. But slowly, there was laughter again. Inside jokes. Little moments where I caught myself looking at her and remembering why I fell in love in the first place. One Saturday afternoon, she showed up at my door, soaked from the rain. I let her in, made her tea, and before I knew it, we were sitting on the couch, shoulders touching, the air between us warm in a way it hadn't been in months. That night, she stayed. From then on, it felt like we were rebuilding. Not perfectly, there were still cracks, places we avoided stepping too hard. But there was something there. Something that made me believe maybe, just maybe, we could survive the storm we'd been through. And then she told me she was pregnant. This time, the reaction was different. I didn't freeze. I didn't think about money or timing or practicality. I just felt joy. Pure, unfiltered joy. She smiled when she saw it. "We're going to be okay," she said, almost like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. Weeks passed, and things between us grew lighter. We talked about names. She teased me about being overprotective when I insisted on carrying the heavier grocery bags. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could see a future. Then came the doctor's appointment. We sat in that dimly lit room, the hum of the ultrasound machine filling the air. The doctor looked at the screen, then at us, and smiled. "Congratulations, it's twins. Twins!" Again, my heart raced. I looked at her, half expecting panic, but she just smiled, her hand tightening around mine. In that moment, it felt like fate was rewriting our story. Like maybe the universe was giving us a second chance at something we'd lost. But just a few days later, fate had other plans. It started with a text I wasn't meant to see. A simple message that popped up on her phone while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping, it just lit up on the counter. It was from him. I stared at the phone. One text. Just one. But it was enough to pull me out of the safe little bubble we'd been rebuilding. It read, "I still think about that night." My chest tightened. I could almost hear my heartbeat in my ears. When she came out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, hair dripping, I didn't even give myself time to think. I held the phone up. "What's this?" I asked. She froze. Her eyes darted from the phone to my face, and for a moment, I swear I saw her soul leave her body. "It's nothing," she said, her voice thin. I didn't say a word. I just kept staring at her until the silence became unbearable. Finally, she sat down on the edge of the bed and started talking. Right after we broke things off, I slept with him. The air left my lungs. She rushed to add, "It was only once. And we used protection. It can't be his." But my mind was already spinning. "So when I asked you before, when I told you I needed the exact truth before we even thought about getting back together, you lied?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want that one mistake to erase everything we could still have." I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask why she thought protecting me from the truth was the same as protecting our relationship. I wanted to walk out and never look back. But there was one thing I couldn't ignore: the pregnancy. The twins. A cold thought crept into my mind, one that I couldn't push away no matter how hard I tried. What if they're not mine? She swears they are. She swears there's no way. But the timing overlap, it's too close for comfort. And the worst part? I can't even decide what scares me more, that they aren't mine or that they are. Now I'm stuck here, caught between love, betrayal, and the possibility of raising children who might not even be mine. So here I am, telling this story to strangers on the internet, because maybe you can see it clearer than I can. If you were in my position, would you stay and raise these twins with her, or walk away before the truth destroys me completely?